This week's show brought to you by SCAD, Scott Countyans Against Drugs. Welcome everybody to the Scott County Cardinals News Graphic Football Coaches Show. We're into week 4 of the season already. Kind of hard to believe. Closing in on that halfway point after the next 2 weeks, and they will be a big 2 weeks as the Cardinals go up against a couple of Cincinnati powerhouses. It will start this Friday night at 7:30 at Laughlin Stadium, just north of the city, when Scott County takes on Archbishop Moeller. We know those two teams met last year. Moeller scored twice early in the game, took advantage of some Scott County mistakes, and went on to a 38-28 victory in a game that was close most of the way, most of the night, back and forth after that early punch from Moeller. There was a lot of counter-punching, but just Scott County couldn't get over the hump. Then next Friday night, we'll talk a lot more about it next week as LaSalle comes to town to Toyota Stadium for another battle, a game that was competitive, similar situation last year where LaSalle pulled away late and won by a couple of touchdowns. But again, these are the games that Coach Jim McKee schedules to kind of set up the Cardinals for that run in November when they're playing the likes of Trinity, St. X, Male, some of those teams that have been nemesis over the years in Kentucky. And what you do in September prepares you a lot of times for what happens in November. So we'll see that play out hopefully this weekend and next weekend as well. I want to look back to last week's game, another trip north to Fort Thomas, a night that was abbreviated for a lot of people, or in some cases rescheduled for a lot of people across the state, as some widespread thunderstorms kind of put a damper on Friday night's game. Certainly an impressive performance while it lasted up there at Highlands for Scott County as they rolled to a 28-7 victory. There were about 3 minutes left in the second quarter when the lightning arrived and forced everybody to take cover. The teams agreed to call the first half a done deal at that point, and when the game couldn't continue, it went into the books as a win for Scott County. Some impressive numbers on the defensive side. No first downs for Highlands, 3 rushing attempts for 5 yards, 22 yards of total offense. Just more domination for that Scott County defensive front of Hudson, Coleman, and Carter. And the defensive secondary picked up the slack as well, allowed only 2 completed passes in that one. So Scott County improved to 3-0, dominated on the offensive side of the ball as well, ran the ball 4 long scoring drives. And the hope for Scott County is they can do that against an even better opponent, much better opponent on Friday night in Moeller. Moeller took down Trinity last week, so you got to take that seriously, even in a shortened game, 21-14. Coach McKee talking about Moeller and talking about what it's going to take to get over that hump against the Cincinnati and Louisville parochial schools. They haven't beaten any of them yet. They're over, and McKee knows that. He'll remind you of that. He'll remind his team of that. Let's see what he had to say about this week's game and Scott County's hopes to finally climb that mountain. Scott County dominated Highlands for the 4th consecutive year in last week's rain-shortened game.
Yeah, I mean, we've been fortunate enough to beat them 4 times in a row in a series, and that was the last game of the series. So hopefully, as soon as next year, we might see them in the 5A playoffs on down the road somewhere, and be another exciting game in Fort Thomas and more La Rosa's Pizza.
Highlands offense did not produce a first down on Friday night.
They had the ball 3 times, or 3 and out all 3 times. And, of course, we were getting ready to kick off with 3 minutes to go, and maybe their offense would have had some answers then, but certainly you couldn't ask any more out of our defense than what they gave us in the first 3 possessions of the game.
The Cards cranked out 4 long drives against the Bluebirds last Friday.
Well, I think that you've got to play to the strength of your team, and you've also got to play to what the opponent gives you. And, because of their alignment and the way that they chose to defend some certain things that we did, there were a couple plays we hadn't shown going into that game, and so they really gave us a bubble off the tight wing side to run our power play and our down play. And, until they were able to stop those, there was really no reason to do anything other than that. I mean, honestly, I would have liked to have played the rest of the game so we could have done some other things offensively.
Scott County's offensive line continues to make huge strides.
Well, I mean, I don't think you're ever happy, because I think that that's your human nature as a coach. But we've certainly made progress. Tyler Salmons was set to be our center last year. and so he got hurt. So he was maybe, even though he didn't play last year, was a little farther along than the others. But Taylor's trying really hard, and Peyton Saunders is trying hard, and we got Lakeland Eads and Colton Combs right behind them that are also junior linemen that are capable of playing, and hopefully are going to get some opportunities to play.
Cincinnati and Louisville parochial schools have been a problem for Scott County.
If I knew the answer, I would give it to you. But we've never beaten Trinity, we've never beaten St. X, and we've never beaten one of the GCL teams from Cincinnati. And we've played 4 GCL games. This will be our 5th GCL game. So the only thought process is, if you keep doing it, then eventually maybe you'll make it happen.
Laughlin Stadium proved a tough test for Trinity last week, and Scott County must deal with it on Friday night.
The atmosphere is probably better at Fort Thomas. I mean, now they're going to have a nice crowd and a big band and that kind of stuff, but the stadium sits back away. It's very large, and there's a track around the field, so it won't be that. It's really cool up there at Fort Thomas, but I won't be bothered by the environment, and hopefully the kids won't either. But that's the reason why we go play in those kind of environments, is to make sure that they're not bothered.
Moeller brings a different offensive look to this year's game.
I think they had 2 Division I tight ends, and the quarterback was obviously a Division I player. But he's not playing this year. He broke his ankle last year in the two games after our game. And once he went out, he did not come back, and he's not playing this year. But 28 and 6 are their playmakers. 28's a bruiser runner, and 6 is more of a scat back type guy. They're big, strong, physical. It's what you think of from kind of Big Ten football or Ohio football. They want to run the ball first, and defensively they want to take the run away. So, and they're a little deeper than we are. They don't play anybody at all both ways, and their numbers are a little bit higher than ours. But I think we've got every opportunity to win.
All right, that was Coach McKee talking about last week's win over Highlands, convincing, and what should be a great game Friday night up to Laughlin Stadium against Moeller. Hope you can make it. Talked with a couple of key players that were important to that win. The center on the offensive line, Tyler Salmons, had a tough year last year with injuries. He's had 2 major injuries in his high school career. He's bounced back from that nicely to center that line as a senior. And Matt Fannin, who has moved from the secondary to linebacker. He's played all over, just on that defense that can fly off the edge and block punts and knock down passes and make tackles at the point of the attack. He's done great things for the Cards. Let's see what Tyler and Matt had to say. Both sides dominated the line of scrimmage last week against Highlands.
But we game planned pretty hard for them. We knew exactly what they were going to do, and we just played our best.
Well, blocking is the key. Yeah. They did a lot of stunning on the D-line that we weren't really used to, and we just had to adjust after the first drive and get our blocks.
Scott County learned the importance last year of not making critical mistakes against Moeller.
Well, they don't have their quarterback from last year. He was insane last year. They have a pretty cool environment down there. I mean, they got a bunch of top recruits, but we got to be ready for it.
It was a tough game last year, and they're a good team, but we can do it.
The Cards' success this year has been simple: run and stop the run.
Well, I saw a stat where we've only allowed like 23 rushing yards so far this year, so I'm pretty proud of that. We work really hard.
Yeah, we're learning. It's just a lot of conditioning, like I said, and getting the blocks.
Scott County often learns the value of these September games against Moeller and LaSalle come playoff time.
The Cincinnati teams are like the big teams up here, like Trinity, St. X, Mail. They get us ready for the state championship games.